When you hear the name Goa, you might conjure up images of beaches, nightlife, and alcohol, maybe. But beyond the cliches lies something deeper. A world where history breathes through its walls and creativity pulses through its streets. I've been living in Goa for a year now, and I find myself digging deeper and deeper into Goa's culture. It's vibrant, deep, and soulful. A huge part of the culture is art. I have found myself gazing at the sheer beauty around me, in the form of nature, of course, but also so many man made things. Art isn't just an afterthought here, it is a way of life. I get lost so often here. In the art galleries, the colorful stores, the streets, and old large houses. So I decided to dig a little deeper into the visual art scene here specifically, from more art galleries to heritage homes and conversations with artists shaping the world that are based in Goa. Let's uncover together how art is more than just aesthetic here. It is a reflection of life itself. As I was saying, I set out to connect deeper with the soul of Goan art. In order to do this, my first quest was to spend time in and around Panjim to explore art galleries. And I stumbled upon this one which was called Sunaparanta Goa Center of the Arts. The name actually comes from another name given to Goa, Sunaparant, which means golden coast on the Arabian Sea. They have frequent exhibitions here, workshops, lectures, and alongside visiting galleries, I also did some research at home. And I found that the soul of Goan art can be traced back to the Neolithic age, which is essentially 8000 to 6000 BC. The cave art in a certain area of South Goa depicts animals and humans. The common threads of humanity are still intact. We are just as fascinated by our natural world as we were back then, and it's still a heavily covered subject in any form of art. Since then, Goa developed many of its own distinct artistic styles, such as an art form called Kavi. Kavi art is a traditional mural art that originated here, and it is made from a blend of lime and laterite, which is a maroon red pigment. Then, of course, came the colonial times, and Portuguese influence on Goan culture and art is very palpable. A mixture of the original culture and the Portuguese resulted in art that blended religions, architecture that blended two souls. While doing my research, I came across this notable figure, Lakshman Pai, who was a Goan artist who was active starting from the late colonial period and in the Goan liberation movement. He has given significant contributions to the contemporary art culture in Goa. He served as the principal of the Goa College of Art for 10 years. Inspired by Goan life, he started with painting its beauty. And he recounted an interesting story about the time when a friend of his, Mr. Francis Newton Souza, another famous Goan artist who got into trouble with the Bombay CM of the time for a painting that he made because it was a nude painting. Mr. Pai also faced consequences because of that, simply because he was associated with Mr. Souza, which is to say they were friends, and was first demoted from his position, and when he questioned that, he was expelled. His story, and even his artistic style for that matter, reminded me of someone I met and had a chance to speak to recently. She's a visual artist focusing on not just portraits but the female body, among other things. Let's meet Sam. So, tell us a bit about yourself.
My name is Samriti. My artist name is Samster, which has a pretty funny origin. It was because I was compared to a hamster.
Nice.
And so the name came about. It's reached a point where people don't know my actual name, they just know me as Samster. So I'm a visual artist. I like to paint anything that I can paint. I usually use the mediums of acrylic. I would say a little bit of mixed media. I do use a lot of random mediums, like, I don't know, just scrap material or like
That's pretty cool.
yeah, so it's very random. I don't know what I'm using most of the time.
Speaking of scrap art, it has been a big part of the Goan art scene. I met another wonderful artist at an event that I'll talk about later, and she had beautiful scrap art as part of her collection. Would you like to say hi to the camera? Hi! This is Anji, guys, and she does a marvelous job. Oh my god. That one is my favorite. My favorite. Old stuff. Sustainable art. That's the best thing. Oh my god. Look at that. The charm and creativity in using things that would otherwise be called waste is, in my opinion, unparalleled.
I like to paint a lot of portraits. I like to paint a lot of female anatomy, and it's not really like anatomical drawings or anything. I'm using that term, but I just like to paint a lot of naked women basically.
Love that.
So the next thing I really want to get to is like oil painting. Oil paints are delicate to use and they are way more real. Like the paintings that you create with oil paintings are just, they have a quality that none of the
Agreed.
other mediums have.
Speaking of portraits, I visited this art gallery situated in Fountainhouse called Fundaka Orient. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. And it's actually a Portuguese organization that carries out cultural and artistic activities. And this is a delegation of it in Goa. The Trinidad collection, which is displayed here, was actually donated to Fundaka Orient by the Trinidad Trust in 2004, comprising works by the renowned Goan painters such as Antonio Xavier Trinta. This is another classic example of blending cultures and the stronghold of colonial influence. It has such interesting portraits of people all across the economic, social spectrums, and the special one of Mahatma Gandhi that was really captivating. Sam's right. Oil portraits do have a distinct quality. They are intense and vivid and somehow make you feel so much. I think it's all in the details.
I came to Goa in the pursuit of beginning a country-wide backpacking trip with my dog. I came here and the intention was to stay for a month. I ended up staying for, well, until now. It's been 4 years. Once I found my own place, then there was no going back. I was like, now this is home. I will turn this into my like little art paradise, you know, and that's exactly what I ended up doing over the next 4 years.
Artists tell stories through different mediums. Here in Goa, some artists tell stories about the place and some about who they are because of this place.
Goa is a very scenic place, and I'm not someone who paints landscapes. So for me, it's like I've had experiences in Goa that have made me want to create something beautiful just to be able to get that feeling out of me because it's so overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like it's a catalyst for creation, and it's a catalyst for creation more times than it is an inspiration. Basically, the feelings that are evoked in me through my time in Goa and like experiences and people and whatever that I've built here in Goa for myself, they make me want to create things. Like the thing is, I'm a very demotivated person in general. Like I've experienced whatever things I've experienced, and I'm just generally very demotivated now. It's very difficult for me to do things. So when I have these experiences and that feeling that is evoked in me is so strong, then I need to act on it at that point of time. Moments where I'm seeing, you know, this person who's like taken care of me when there's been no electricity for 8 hours, and they came and gave water to me, you know, and this person is like swimming in the sea and like getting thrashed around by the waves, and I'm seeing this laughter on their face, and I'm just like, that feeling. Goa is such a colorful place in general. Like in general, you'll see everywhere you'll go, you'll see three colors anyway, which is green, blue, and like this rust. This stone that they have here, no, that everything is made from this stone. I forgot what it's called. It's that red rust colored stone. These three colors everywhere in Goa you see. Then you'll see like these colorful houses.
Yellow.
The Goa yellow. There's a Goan yellow.
Correct.
That mustardish yellow.
Correct.
Bright mustard yellow.
And I feel like they do have an artistic flair here when you see the houses.
I also got really lucky with the house. So it was a very beautiful house, and my landlord was incredible. He let me do anything I wanted. So I painted all the walls in my house. I painted everything, and on top of that, the previous tenants of the house were artists. So they left a lot of art supplies in this house. The family all appreciate art. Like, you know, I made a painting for them. His sister got married, and I made a painting of her dog as a wedding gift.
Landlord?
Yeah.
Wow. A video on Goan art cannot be complete without a talk about its architecture. The event I mentioned earlier where I met Anji, it was held at a house aged almost 200 years. It has been repurposed as a hotel, and honestly it's probably top 3 most beautiful houses I have ever seen. The architecture, the decor, it was all so pleasing to look at. The event itself was so much fun. They had thrift stalls, art stalls. I don't think you guys can see me right now. Another art-filled evening, and it's crazy the number of people I come across who are yearning for that creative way of spending their lives. Like, so many people I met today as well spend half of their days doing corporate stuff and being part of the capitalist world, but they're here putting themselves out there, and it's really incredible. There is a whole museum dedicated to Goan architecture and specifically houses. Actually, it's called Houses of Goa and features the different elements of a Goan house that make it so captivating. The museum also features an art gallery that comprises of works by the very notable artist Mario Miranda, based in Goa. He was a cartoonist and he is present throughout Goa, at the airport, in people's houses. I even saw one of his works in the house I visited for that event. And his work is so distinct, it's caricaturist, but it somehow captures the spirit of Goa perfectly. The aspect that I think deserves to be included are the cafes here. They're the perfect blend of art, architecture, food, and community, which, I mean, you really can't go wrong with that. It's hard to tell sometimes whether a building is a house or a cafe because the houses are so aesthetic themselves. But Art cafes are quite popular in Goa, and I really like the idea of using cafes as art spaces where you can indulge in making art with groups of people, and that just sounds great.
Having the power of creation is like insane, right? You make something out of nothing. It's insane. Like
Yeah.
it's going from a brain onto like an actual thing. Because like women are straight up come and told me that dude, like I've never seen my body like this. Like you made me feel so much more confident in my skin. And I'm like that's the point, you know?
Yeah.
That is the whole
That is the
point.
best.
Feel so like I can impact something. I can do something for someone. I can make a tiny change. Like because growing up, I always wanted to make like a big change. I thought my life would be worthless if I didn't change the world. And then I realized it's impossible to change the world
Yeah.
single-handedly. It's a movement. It's like
Yes.
a
Collective.
boon boon se banta hai saga type
हाँ.
of thing. Yeah, I started focusing on the smaller changes that
But
I
I
could do.
genuinely think like doing what you really want in this world is a form of rebellion. Like
Fully, that is like the whole point. I think that just being is a rebellion because you're literally ignorant and
Yeah.
oblivious and unbothered by everything else. Then.
and that's exactly what the society does not want.
Exactly. So then, what is the bigger rebellion at the end of the day? Dude? एक कान से लो दूसरे कान से निकालो and do what you want. Like
Exactly.
it's okay.
Yeah. Every city, every town have many stories to tell. Art is a way of telling them, and artists are the medium. A quote that I read went something like, Goa has a supernatural quality of refining the human mind, and this helped the Goans to go into depth of creativity and spirituality. There are so many more aspects of Goan art that I would have loved to cover, but we just don't have that much time. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this tiny look into a vast culture that I am still grappling with every day that I live here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.